friends, Jewel back with another super cool astrology video. And I thought today I would address the natal aspect of Mars square to Neptune in the birth chart. What we see, some of the issues we see surrounding this, and some of the gifts that come with this one. So this is actually a video I've not been looking forward to making because of the nature of this aspect. The people with Sun square Pluto actually did pretty well with their aspect video. I didn't get a whole lot of threats there. So this one is kind of along the same lines, where the square really creates a certain amount of very serious defensiveness within somebody. So this is one that, you know, is really, really difficult to even make somebody understand that they have or that is a problem in their life because of the nature of this aspect. These people really tend to lie to themselves when we have this particular square. So, oh, the comments are going to be lovely on this one. So, people tend to undo themselves with their actions and their anger and their aggression when they have this particular square. Their defensiveness is so hard for other people to understand and to deal with that they pretty much are the ones that keep themselves isolated because of the way that they use their Mars. So, you know, Neptune is that ruler originally of the 12th house. It really represents seclusion and solitude, our self-undoing as well as found there in the 12th. Sensitivities are in the 12th house. It's a beautiful house. When it mixes with Mars, it can show some issues because of the way these two energies work together. So Mars is very direct. You know, it's the planet of the first house, which is the self, the ego, male sexuality, the action-oriented side of the ego. Not like the sun, where it's where we want to be appreciated for being. Mars is what we want to be appreciated for doing or getting. So when these two come into a square aspect, it really creates a deep confusion within somebody related to their Mars and what that is, meaning their self, their ego, how they show up in the world. They don't really have a good sense of how that is. So the things of Mars are not clear or straightforward with this particular square. So when we have the first house mixing with the 12th, you know, who they are, what they want, and how to get it is not easily defined. So, you know, Mars is direct, Neptune is not. This often shows up as people not wanting or being able to bring themselves to take responsibility for their own passive aggression or difficulties in life. The ego is extremely sensitive when we have this square. These people really, really cannot handle criticism. They fear criticism. They fear rejection. And they do not take it well. So when you even bring this one up to somebody, there is a high likelihood that they are going to explode on you, or they are going to sit on it for a while and then explode on you, because any amount of criticism, or if they perceive that they've been criticized or be made to be seen as weak or incapable, they can really lash out. So it's very, very difficult to get them to even see that there is an issue with this aspect, because how they're so defensive and how they're so angry with it. So really, ultimately, this one creates a scenario for people where they are not honest with themselves. They do a lot of story creating for themselves. And this is how they end up projecting their anger or their aggression or their disappointment, or if they perceive they've been criticized, they'll project that out onto you. Look what you've done to me, and you may not have done that at all. You probably didn't. So they're very, very defensive, and it's one where, I mean, they can actually be like, verbally abusing you, and at the same time convincing you that they are trying to convince you that they are the most helpful and loving person and most giving person. See, they're telling you about their Neptune. They're describing the Neptune, but they're using their Mars on you, and they are not acknowledging that to themselves. So this is a very difficult aspect to solve, because even acknowledging that it exists is a problem. So the ego can actually become, in some cases, because there are very different grades or degrees of how this particular square shows up. It shows up generally the same for people, but the particulars of it are very dependent upon what houses are involved, and free will and choice, and the entire chart in general. This is a very complex aspect for somebody to live with and to negotiate. So it can happen sometimes that the sexuality can be hidden or clandestine, or have an element of, it's not, there's something not honest about it. Not always, because it depends on the person. Now, most text or astrology books or sites that you look at are going to say that they're going to make it sound like that's all the time. You're always going to find that. That's not true. Sometimes this square can show up as somebody being extremely sensitive to being artistic. They're really great with film, because Neptune rules Hollywood, film, beauty. Mars is that, that energetic drive. So, and male sexuality as well. So these people actually do very well with film, very well in Hollywood careers, extremely good with, they have a really good eye for photography and that kind of thing. Wherever beauty or daring meets the screen or the camera, these people do very, very well. They can be very gifted when it comes to, great, now we have to listen to my text messages. They could be very gifted when it comes to creating illusion and believable characters. So there is a really good side to this one, and that can be allowed to really come out and flourish if they can deal with the difficult side of it, which is that self-deceptive, passive-aggressive kind of deal. So, sometimes this one can show up as bad judgment. Sometimes it can show up in somebody's sexual behavior. We can sometimes see, bisexuality, pansexuality, sometimes homosexuality with this one, because it creates a very boundaryless and accepting sexuality. So it depends on everything, because human sexuality in itself is extremely complex, and astrology is non-judgmental. It's universal intuitive science. So this one can show up as alternative sexual expression. It can show up as hidden sexual expression. Sometimes it can show up as a sick sexual expression, where somebody is indulging in some kind of sexuality that is about domination or control, or submission and control, because that is the energy of Mars with Neptune. You know, one is submissive, one is aggressive. So they can act that out in the context of their own sex lives. So this square is really solved through somebody getting in touch with who they really are. They really need to get honest with themselves about how they have behaved towards others with their Mars, or how they have not taken responsibility with their Mars. People don't like to acknowledge with this square that anything is wrong, or that they need to adjust something within their own drive, or within their own authenticity, to see the kind of success that they're looking for. So this is one that can keep people from being happy, or really from seeing the kind of life that they really deserve, because they don't feel deserving. They feel that their self-esteem is really in the garbage, typically, when we have this one. They do not feel that they are worthy of much. And so they get into relationships where they are treated badly. They can get into relationships where they're sexually taken advantage of. They can get into lifestyles where they allow themselves to be sexually taken advantage of, or are living out an unhealthy expression of that. So it's a pesky square for somebody to deal with. And if you know somebody who has this, you need to be really compassionate, because this is one that really takes a lot of maturity in order to be able to see through the illusions of Neptune. Because Neptune is about escapism, it is about unreality, and it is about sensitivity, and really about things that are hidden and things that aren't readily discernible. So when somebody's self comes into that house, they are really charged with finding what that is. And it's important to be very compassionate with people who have this aspect, because it is a doozy to work with. And they need a lot of understanding and a lot of caring. And if you can gently bring them to a place where they can acknowledge that it is going on and that it is a problem, then they can start taking steps to mature out of it. Because Mars is a very immature planet. It really shows the birth and what it is, and it's coming to a very mixing with a planet, that originally rules the 12th house, that is the planet of the final ending. So it's the new meets the old. And when these people can solve this square, they actually become very, very compassionate in themselves. Their artistry is legendary. They can create beautiful works of art. They have a very sexy quality to them as well. And if this one can be solved, they really can become a blessing to the people around them, rather than somebody that people feel like they have to handle with kid gloves, because if you say the wrong thing, explosion. So I hope you found this useful and not hurtful, because it is meant to be helpful. If you did enjoy this, please subscribe to my channel. You can find me on the internet at truthandaspectastrology.com. You can find me on Facebook at Truth and Aspect Astrology. My new website is up, so find me over there for new birthday descriptions. I'm getting the astrology weather forecast over there. I'm putting all kinds of new articles over there on my new blog, so find me there. Find me all kinds of places. Yes, I do private consultation, email for an appointment. I'll be back super soon. Bye-bye.